Hi, I'm Tim Lister, and I'm from New York City. And I know what you're thinking. Geez, he's old. I am. But the great benefit of being old is you become fearless. You can't hurt me anymore. Right? It's that easy. And I have 5 partners, and we're in the Atlantic Systems Guild, 3 in Europe and 3 in the US. And one of the things we do together is we write books. Books are the output, but the process is everything. And that is we get together and discuss topics and really think about them for months on end. And right now, we think we have a book about workplace culture. And so for this hour, I want to talk to you about really fundamental stuff in the sense that we don't usually talk about our workplace culture too much. It is what it is. And I would like to challenge that. One, how do you describe your culture? By the way, I have a huge advantage over all of you. With my 5 partners, we've literally been in hundreds of different organizations. And there is a phenomenon that is amazing. And that is, you can go into an organization and you can smell it. Right? It's something sensory about it where you go, oh, this is an interesting place. Or you go, uh-oh. No. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been on a job interview where you walk into an organization and you almost go, no, I don't need to talk to anybody. Thank you. This gives me the creeps. I have no interest here. And how does that happen? And so I want to talk to you about this. And I said characters, community, and culture. Notice I didn't say organization, because culture, for the most part, is what surrounds you. And many organizations are so big that much of the organization is invisible to you. Now, you may be in a startup, and that's a whole different ball of wax, where everybody can have lunch together. And you know everybody's name, first name basis. That's a whole different planet than if you're working in a huge governmental organization or a multinational corporation or things like that. Right? So I want to think about the culture. Try this as an experiment. Take a piece of paper, draw a circle, and put yourself right in the middle. That will make you feel good. And now say, who are the people I work with on a regular basis that immediately surround me in my inner circle, right? And name them or name their roles. Then think to yourself, who are the people that I interact with some of the time or rarely, but I have a dependency with them? My work goes to them, or they do things that come to me. They're sources of input to my work, or I deliver my work to them, those kinds of things. And then eventually draw another circle with those folks in them, and then there's the outer circle where they're invisible. Right? This person might work in my organization, I've never met them. Right? And don't worry about hierarchy. Put your bosses in your inner circle, that's probably true, right? Those kinds of things. And to me, I called it important factors for prosperity. Not prosperity for your organization, for you. Your own prosperity is what I want to talk about here, okay? So, by the way, I may miss the point. I love the logo of DevOps, of 2 people fighting each other going in different directions on the bicycle. To me, what I'm talking about are geese migrating. You know when they make a chevron as they migrate, like an arrow? And the geese are flying in formation. And I'm sure you know this, but it's very interesting. The lead goose has the hardest flight because they have to face the wind. Everybody else is kind of riding in behind them. And so over time, each goose takes its turn as the front of the chevron. so everybody can get to the destination. That's what I'm talking about here, I think. Healthy culture, good culture. So let me give you a really interesting example of a cultural event. Oops. Come on now. We're about to come up to an event in Mexico that is, you may have heard of. It looks incredibly odd. And that is Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. And you look at it, and it's kind of chilling. It looks like American Halloween, only even odder. People dress up as skeletons in their skulls, and there's a slower picture. They decorate graves, and they produce feasts, and they put out pictures of dead people, and you think, what is going on? And it turns out, I have a friend named Knowitalls who lives in Mexico City, and he finally explained this to me. He said, this is actually not Mexican, it's Aztec, it's ancient. And the Aztecs believe that there's the world of the living, and there's the world of the dead, and then there's real death. Great, Lowick. The world of the living, we are all in the world of the living, we hope here. You die when you do not participate in the world anymore. Your heart stops. You are dead. Okay? Then there's another level of death that is when no one can see you. You are buried, you are cremated, whatever. You are gone. When that happens, the bridge opens up for you to go to the land of the dead, which is not an unhappy place, where you meet all your dead relatives and all the friends that have passed and everything, and it's the land of the dead. And once a year, and this year, in October 31st to November 2nd, the bridge opens up and the dead can come back to the land of the living. The only problem is we can't see them, we can't touch them, we can't feel them, but they're with us. And so the idea is we have a feast. We make food that they like, we have their pictures, we tell stories about them. They can be funny stories, and we talk about our deceased relatives. Now, the interesting thing is, there's the final stage of death. And that final stage of death is when no one who is living says your name. There is no picture. You are forgotten by the living. Then you truly are dead. You go away from the land of the dead, and you are done. You are dead, dead, dead. Whatever we want to think about it. And you think about it, and it's a lovely idea. Right? What's going on there? Right? And so you see the behaviors of having a feast and decorations and pretending we're dead and having parades and things like that. But the idea is, the underlying belief is we need to celebrate our roots, our past. Right? And if you wanted to summarize it, it's basically our families are our anchors, or one of our anchors in our society. Right? And so what I want to talk about is, we've been talking about this at the Guild, is this, right? When you look at an organization, you see their behaviors, what people do and what they don't do, and how they interact with each other, etc. But behind that are shared beliefs of what our values are, our beliefs are in the organization. That's not what we say they are, but how we act, what we really do. Right? And then we come up with something called a driver. And a driver is a categorization of beliefs that are put together as a whole. Right? So we're kind of doing backwards looking. We're saying, here are the behaviors. What are the beliefs that are driving that behavior? And can we categorize them and put them in bundles? And that's what our drivers are called. Okay? So let's take a look. Here are your drivers, I think. Sorry. We came in with 6 so far. Right? 1, I'll just go through them real fast and then we'll come back. The perceived value of people and teams. It's a very strong cultural driver. The perceived nature of time, safety and security, right? A bond of collective confidence, okay, that allows us to take risks, for instance. Navigation by grown-ups, as we called it. And this is, I'll talk about it, but basically, strategic, proactive planning and deciding what we are going to work on when. Right? And then excellence and benevolence. And this has to do with quality, not as perceived by our customers, but quality as perceived by us. The quality standard we set. So let's take each one in turn. Let me make sure I don't miss anything. I have some notes here. The perceived value of people in teams, the belief, I think, is at the best. Now, let me start all over again. No culture is perfect, and no culture is a total disaster. Right? So, in no culture, there's no one standard, but we're going to talk about an ideal, I guess. So, the ideal, if you ask an executive, what do you think of your staff? They will give you the HR, our critical ingredient, and we have great motivation and great people here. Yeah. But what do you really do is what I want to know. Don't tell me the newspaper version of this. Show me what you do. So the first one is that people and teams are the major contributor to, people are the major contributor to team success and in the long term, organizational success. The caliber of the people makes a huge difference. Right? So for instance, how do you hire people? Again, it's very different in the room, I'm sure. For instance, how much time or effort by technical people goes into hiring other technical people? Do you have a say for hiring new people? Or no say? Or some say? Right? How easy is it to hire people? Right? I guess at the extreme, and this is at the extreme, are people truly an asset that you invest in, or are they furniture? Right? The chair gets broken, we put it in the corner, and we get another chair. They're fungible. We can trade them in. We lost Louis, get another Louis. That kind of idea. Right? So the idea of the perceived value of people and teams. Teams are sacrosanct. They are sacrosanct. You don't manage a team. You nurture a team. Teams take on a life of their own. And they persist for a while. And in some organizations, teams can last for months, if not years. In other organizations, there never really was a team. It's all part-timers. Right? And you want to look at that and say, how are we going with this? Right? I think about now with agile development, where we're highly reactive and tight steering, along with continuous delivery and deployment, the need for coordination is greater than ever. And I think it's never going to go back. In the ancient old days, which were not good old days, don't ever believe that. Everything was kind of containerized. We had a project that began, we worked on it, we finished it, we delivered it. And now that's gone, I think. That's so blurred, it's very rare to have this discrete kind of project anymore. So we have these dependencies. Another thing I want you to think about, let me ask a question that you don't have to answer. Do you think you'll be at the same organization for another 10, 15 years? Do you think this organization might encourage you or at least offer to change what you do? to make you have a different role, completely different role. Right? And I'm not saying there's a right answer or a wrong answer, but we have to understand those to try to figure out how we are going to prosper. Right? Put it this way, the traditional route had been, if you were a developer or a technical person, you became a manager of technical people. And between you and me, that was a roadmap to misery. Really good technical people love to make things. And they feel like, oh, I've got a family, I've got a spouse, I've got a mortgage, I need to make more money, or whatever they're thinking. And then they convince themselves, I have to become a manager. Right? And then you could become a manager and you're miserable because you're not making stuff, you're dealing with people and people are messy, and all the rest of it. And now you're miserable, so how do you get back to being a developer again? In most organizations, you don't. You have to go find another job in another company where you can pretend you never were a manager. Right? That kind of thing. So the perceived people on the team, the perceived nature of time. Time is really interesting to think about. Time is your friend and your foe at the same time. Right? Time, if you give people more time to do their work, that is a huge boost to the probability that they'll succeed. If somebody says, I don't want you to rush through this thing. Take 4 months to do this. And you say, but I could do it in a month. You say, no, we really need a really beautiful solution here. 4 months instead of 1 month, yeah, you've really got a good likelihood that you've improved the output. Right? At the same time, time is money. And so you have the balance where you say, well, if I take more time, then it's longer before we deliver the product and get any return on our investment. If I take more time, then my project backlog, I've lost opportunity because I could have been working on the next thing. And now the great organization somehow balances it. They don't get afraid of time, nor do they think they've got infinite time. And you can see examples in the world where people are afraid of time, in a sense. Everything has to be done as soon as possible. So, for instance, do you have projects or work that have, as we love the euphemism, aggressive schedules? I love aggressive schedules. I want to see a passive schedule sometime. Right? Or even better, have you ever delivered anything early? Nobody delivers early. The idea, well, yeah, sometimes they do, but it sure is rare. But the idea of squeezing time, faster. No time to think about it, get it done. Don't put your feet up on your desk and think for an afternoon. That's wasting time. Go. And you see organizations that are driven by time because you are drawing down a salary, and let's get faster and faster. Or in some cases, you see the extreme, and usually in larger organizations where time, let's get it perfect. Let's take, and they have no notion of value returned. Right? And so the best of companies somehow find that balance. Safety and security. If safety and security are not the same. Safe, it means you will not be demeaned, you will not be criticized for your opinions or your work. You will not have any personal attack. You are safe to say what you know as you are an expert in some matter. Right? Secure means your job is secure. Right? And so you can have safety without security. If you're in a startup, you have safety and probably very little security. The startup may make it, it may not, but you're here we go, we're all together, and at the same time, you're totally safe as a developer or designer, whatever, to say what you believe is true or to give your opinion without being insulted or demeaned. Right? And if you have no safety, it is a culture killer. Right? If you can't be honest, you have a toxic situation. So safety and security. If I said, if no trust, I predict pain. Remember Mr. T from the Rocky movie? I predict pain. You know, if you trust is interesting. You know, say you earn trust. Do you? If you're a mother or a father, at some point you have to trust your kid. Has that kid earned it, or is it time to let them try something and you hope you have a safety net? In the best companies I've seen, the default is trust. You're a new hire, I trust you until you prove you're not trustworthy. And that's a culture that can live. Hold on. Just want to make sure. Yeah. Another thing about I wanted to say about safety is you don't, how would I put it? You're not in danger for having superior performance. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes a person below you or a cohort is treated as dangerous because they're so darn good. And in a sense, they're casting a shadow over you. In a good organization, everyone's thrilled you're there. I'm not going to talk about the bond of collective confidence. By the way, I hope you've seen it. I put 2 chapters of the manuscript up, an introductory chapter and the chapter on people and teams, and I'd love you to take a look at it. Navigation by grown-up. We had a hard time with this one. Navigation is the decision of what we're going to work on in the next time frame. You know, if you're in a larger company, manager-type people go off to offsites and come up with strategic initiatives, those kinds of things. Saying, this is where we're going. Right? The navigation by grown-ups. Navigation is the deciding where the voyage is going to take us, and does the initial kind of scoping and planning and description, might do the initial kind of estimation, etc., of where we're going. Execution is where we are moving toward the first or the next target along that path to the final destination. Right? So in the best organizations, a couple of things happen. One is they don't have 83 strategic initiatives. They don't have 17. They might have 2 or 3. Right? And also the best organizations, they have ways of correcting course, right, as they go along. That is, they look at where they are and say, okay, we have to change some things in terms of the plan, the schedule, the time, the staff, whatever, to stay on course, to get us to our destination. You know, some organizations are in total firefight mode. Things are coming up, and let's spend our efforts on them. And these strategic initiatives, if you wish, are all talk and no real work. Excellence and benevolence, I'm not going to talk about, but I just want to say, this is quality as set by the team, not by the customer. I remember years ago, we were talking about software engineering, and a friend of mine said, it's not engineering. And I said, well, when will it be engineering? He said, real engineers won't do things. When we refuse to do things, then we're engineers. I thought that was very, very poignant. Now, there's one thing that I want to talk about, and that is unspoken rules. If you think about it in your office, in your organization, there are rules that have never been written down. We don't talk about them, but they are there. And in many ways, they drive the culture in a negative sense. Now this picture, I realized, looks like, I decided it's not acceptable. It looks like this man is saying something awfully horrible to this woman. So I thought that's politically incorrect. So I thought I'd get more incorrect. The Catholic Church. Right? There's been an unwritten rule in the Catholic Church. I'm not a Catholic, but I'm fearless. So, right? And it is hollowing out that church. I don't know what's going on here in Russia, but in the United States, you talk to Catholic people and they're having a horrible time. Right? There is this belief that the priest was someone you could totally trust with anything in your life. And it turns out many priests were doing horrendous things to their parishioners. Right? And the unspoken rule was never admit imperfection. Is, I think, the ultimate way to say it. Never admit we have a problem inside. Everything is fine, until finally the lid blows off and the outside world says, you are living a massive lie. Right? So the unwritten rules are not as dramatic in most organizations. But I want you to think about them in your organization. Here are a few. Let me get my notes. Denial. And it's denial of something really interesting. Denial of uncertainty. We live in uncertain lands. If things were certain to us, we would be living a slow death, right? In the sense that we have to make new products, new ideas. We are not sure if it's going to work. If we try to avoid all risk, we are slowly going to disappear from the marketplace, or fast. Right? You can look at all sorts of companies that hung on to what they had and then and competition just blew by them because they took risks and they succeeded, and the marketplace went, oh, let's move over there. And denial of uncertainty, to me, is one of the most fundamental problems in many organizations. They do not want you to be able to say, I'm not sure if we can do this. Those organizations, so denial is more comfortable than facing uncertainty, is the unwritten rule. We will deny uncertainty. We will pretend we can see the future perfectly. And then and by the way, we will pretend we are shocked and amazed when something comes up and happens to us. Who knew? The classic where the team manager comes into the big boss and goes, boss, I think we're 4 months late. As though he had an epiphany in the shower that morning. Like, I went to bed, I thought we were on schedule. I woke up and I went, oh my God, we're 120 days behind schedule. How do you get 120 days behind schedule? One day at a time. It's really easy. And you tell me, wow, who knew? Or something hit us that we had no idea would hit us. Really? I've seen lots of projects, and I've never found a project where literally somebody got hit by lightning on a sunny day, where something came out and no one could see it coming. The problems that were problems, somebody always said, there's a risk here. And no one wanted to listen. No one wanted to say, ooh, that could happen. Right? Or if you brought it up as a risk, then you owned the risk. Right? You go to the boss and say, given this platform, we could have real performance problems here. And the boss looks at you and goes, you're right, take care of it. So how often do you want to go around saying, I see this problem, maybe, because, name a problem, own a problem. That kind of phenomenon. You quickly learn to go, risks? I don't see any risks. Ask the new guy. Not me. I'm good. The cafeteria. This one is interesting. It's not lunchtime, and you go to the cafeteria, and do you see people sitting around tables? And usually they're not right next to each other. They're having conversations. And what it is it's the meeting place. It is the real conference room. And the unwritten rule is we don't need fancy space. We got the cafeteria. And I'm not talking about fancy space. I'm talking about you look at the space and everybody's right cheek by jowl. I've got my 2 monitors and I'm at my desk and I can scratch the other guy's head right next to me or something like that. All right, and then there are a couple of conference rooms and maybe one big space, but 3 of you to get together and argue about some aspect of database performance or whatever for the project. You have to sign up 3 weeks in advance to get the conference room for an hour. Right? And it's denial that the space is not working. Right? I don't want to think about this. This is how we're going to work. Slack. The unwritten rule, the unspoken rule is Slack is waste. Everybody should be working full-time all the time. Because we're all little worker bees. Work. Everybody is a billable hour. Get every contractor out there, work. And the idea that you have time to think or reflect or any slack. Notice it goes right back to denial again. There's uncertainty, there's risk. What happens if a problem pops up? Who's going to handle it? Right? You've got, in America we say, I don't know what the term is in Russia, but you have no bench. All the players are playing in the game. And there's no bench. If a player gets injured, whatever happens, there's no bench. Everybody's out there. And again, it's denying the risks, the possibilities. You don't control all the variables on your work. And you can say, Slack is waste. But the most efficient organization, right, is never the most effective. I guarantee you that. Overtime. Overtime is a disease. It hits some people, it doesn't hit others. But in the United States, for instance, right now, the unwritten rule is doing a lot of overtime proves you are a professional. You're really putting your heart and soul into it because you're in on Saturday morning, you're out there Thursday night, that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, overtime is sprinting. Right? You sprint and then you have to rest. Right? And as Tom and I wrote in Peopleware, for every hour of overtime, expect an hour of undertime later on. Because people are going, that kind of thing. Now, I'm taking Monday off because my wife is really pissed off at me because I spent all Saturday and Saturday night in the office or whatever. Right? And overtime is short-term, long-term. It just pulls us all apart. Right? Some of us may be single and foot-free and fine, in our 20s, and okay, I can hang in there for 14 hours today. Others have a 3-year-old at home, and that 3-year-old has no off switch, right? And that 3-year-old is not feeling good, and all those other things that are important in your life. Right? There was a famous Spanish bullfighter years ago named El Cordobés, and he was very charismatic, and he was incredibly good at bullfighting. And a journalist was interviewing him, and he said, "Can you tell me your conditioning, training to get ready to fight the bull?" And he said, "Friend, I do not wrestle the bull." And I want you to think about this. I think overtime is wrestling the bull. You are not a matador anymore. You're not going, ole. You are grabbing the bull by the horns and trying to get it onto the ground, and good luck with that. That's not a career. Right? Speaking of bullshit jobs. I have to get this one. There's a guy I have to give credit to. Here it is. The guy's name is David Graeber. He's an English anthropologist. He had this theory that there are some people who go to work and deliver no value to the organization, to the world, or to themselves. And he took a survey, and he did it in Britain. And what percent of people admitted that they had a bullshit job, where they delivered nothing of value to themselves, to the organization, or the world? 37%. Holland, the Netherlands, 40%. He did a very partial survey in the United States, and it's above 40%. Now, it's really interesting. One is that people admitted they had bullshit jobs. So I guess the unwritten rule is never admit you have a bullshit job. Just hang in there. If you can suffer the malady of a meaningless work life, good luck to you, I guess. You're no longer in the world of the living, you're in the world of the dead to me. Right? But it's fascinating to me to see that seems to be something that's always happening. Always on top of it. In the United States, we have a phrase for people that it's called a know-it-all. And a know-it-all hogs the conversation with dubious facts and profound opinion. They have an answer to everything. Right? And you go to some companies, and it's full of know-it-alls. And you go, wow, how did they hire all know-it-alls? And the answer is they didn't. They made them. They made them because the unwritten rule is if you admit you don't know, it's a sign of weakness. There are some organizations where if you say, I don't know, people kind of go, uh-oh, he's in trouble, he doesn't know. Right? And the healthy company is full of people who say, I don't know. It's okay to tell the truth. Really, it really is. It's rather liberating to say, I don't know. If it's important to you, I'll go find out. And again, I guess it's the lie that we live. Yeah, there are all sorts of things like unwritten rules. I'll give you another one is precision overrules accuracy. Right? The project starts, and we don't even have a hard definition of what it is, what we're building, but we know when we're going to be done. We're going to deliver by the end of the year, December 31st, 2019. And now that I'm an old man, I want to go, what time? What time? I need to know this. Right? Yeah. My father was a mathematician, and Tom DeMarco and I, for our People Are book, we did a whole bunch of studies, and I was showing him the data, and I tried to show the trends. And I before we wrote the book, I took it to him. He's an algebraicist. He's nothing in our business. And I said, Dad, am I missing something here? My nightmare was he's going to go, correlation coefficients, you moron, to me or something. So I showed him the data, and it was all about estimating data. And these people would be estimating to the day how many days it's going to take this. And he's looking at the data early on, where we had project managers doing things early on in the project. And he had one of the most amazing things he ever said to me. And he didn't mean to be funny. He looks at this and he goes, these people have no right to estimate any more than the season. Right? In the spring we'll be done. Don't tell me March 31st. All I can tell you is if the flowers are coming up, we might be done. We might be done next fall. And yet, we've all taken high school math. You watch adults say crazy ass things. Yes, August 20th. And they don't even control all the variables. And then no one says, and then no one will stand up and go, you're an idiot. What are you, a bookkeeper here? This is not making pasta where you spin it and out it comes. I don't know exactly when we're going to be done. Here's where I think we might be done. And here are the boundaries on the certainty of that. Plus or minus 2 months. That kind of thing. I'm sorry you want an accurate, a precise answer. I'm not going to be a stooge. I can't tell you. One of the things in the United States we have that in Russia I don't think you have are hurricanes. And the hurricane season is summer till about now. And there are meteorologists who predict hurricane paths. And one of the amazing things is they won't lie. They just won't. These weathermen, they're such honest people, these men and women. And they will say, here's where it is. Here's the most likely path. But here is the boundary of that path. It can be anywhere in this boundary. So, it's 3 days out, and they're going, it could hit anywhere from Miami to North Carolina. It's like 800 miles. And people going, in our business, people go, oh, no. Tell me where it's going to hit and when. And the weathermen going, nope, don't know. We'll send planes in, we'll get more data, as we will continue to publish these predictions every 6 hours or whatever, and we'll tighten up probably within about, right now it looks to me like, usually within a day, they know within about 100 miles where it's going to hit, usually. They got to, 75% of the time, they're right in that tight window. But it's one of those things where you look at precision in an organization where grown men and women just are willing to say numbers that my dad called them numbers on parade. Right? Hello, I'm a fancy number, 18.75 units. That kind of nuts. So let's talk about improving the culture, right? I came across this. This is Danish, but actually, I later learned it's actually from Norway originally. And there's no word like this in English. And I would love to know if there's a word like this in Russian. And it's pronounced, I think, hygge. I worked in Denmark on and off for a couple of years a little while ago with a friend of mine. And we were in and out all the time and became very good friends with the team we were working with. And the Danish word for beer is 2 letters, O with a line through it and L. And I would say, ul. And they go, no. And I say, ul. And then they say, no, ul. And I'm going, ul. And they go, in 2 years, and I'm going, you're teasing me. You're teasing the Yank. And they said, no. You Yanks, you can't make the sounds we Danes make. So this is proof that Danes have been visited by people from other planets, right? It's a Danish word used when acknowledging a feeling or moment, whether alone or with friends, at home or out, ordinary or extraordinary, as cozy, charming, or special. Right? To be hyggelig doesn't require learning how to do that. It does not require adopting a lifestyle, and you can't buy it. I know what they mean. Right? So that's my dog. I've grown up with dogs. I always have at least a dog. And this is Bodie. His name is I named him Bodie Miller after the great skier, U.S. skier, because he came from the same state. And I took this picture walking my dog. This is a park I live in Manhattan, right in this city. I have these great hygge moments with my dog. My dog likes me. I'm with him. No one's around. The two of us just go for a walk. When I get all the way in the park, I can take him off the leash and he can meet his dog buddies. And it's just, I'm in a sweet spot. Right? Now, my question is, have you ever had one of these moments in the office? Again, in terms of your prosperity, where you just kind of go, wow. And it might not be passive. I remember a couple of times, I've had this on and off with some customers. You know what? Maybe I'm a New Yorker. You have a great debate or argument about something technical, not personal at all, about how we want to do the front end design. And 4 of you just go at it for an hour. And you're yelling and getting up on the whiteboard and we're talking. And it's like, the work intensity is amazing, and then you dissolve and you go back to your own desk and you go, wow, that was fun. That was sweet. That's why I love it. That's why I love those guys. They're tough, they're smart, and we're going to do a damn great job on the front end. And we figured it out, and we know what we're talking about. We've all got the same idea in the head now. Let's go. Those are the moments where you just go, yeah. So now, here's the acid test for you. Are you willing to say this? I'm happy to work here. Now, I'm not going to ask you yes or no, but could you look me in the eye and say, where I work right now, I'm really happy I'm there? And you might be. And if you're there, I'll tell you something. You now have sipped the magic nectar. You will not put up with being unhappy at work. If you found that where you can really say, I'm really happy I'm here, you don't want to deal with the bullshit of the other kinds of organizations anymore. It's just not going to happen for you, right? So how do we fix this or try to fix it? Right? So one person can't make a change to the culture unless you have enormous amounts of power, and even then that would be Herculean, right? So you'll need your mates, your colleagues. You're going to have to get buy-in from at least some of your cohorts just to think about this. So you have to define your community. That's what I was saying about the circles at the beginning of the talk. Who do you interact with a lot? They are probably really important, at least to start to talk about what's good about how we have our culture and what's coming up short. And by the way, frustration is a great way to think about it in terms of shortcomings. What makes you frustrated? There's something wrong going on. Right? There's something not aligned. Right? So think about the first three drivers: time, people, safety, and security. To me, those are the three cores. The other three are really interesting to work on after you really say, at the three driver level, the core drivers, we're doing fine. We're okay. Name what parts are preserving. I don't want to make this, we're just so horrible. What are we good at and we need to preserve? What's going on? Our camaraderie, our openness, our willing, what works? And we want to say, it works. We're not going to mess with this. This is totally on the plus side of our organizations. Right. Then what needs improving? And you can't change everything overnight. Be ruthless. Come up with a list, work on the list, and then start to hone it down. What could we change relatively reasonably, or what is really important we need to change, even if so it's going to be hard, right? And pick off a few, 1, 2, maybe 3 things to work on, no more. Right? And now you have to say with your colleagues, right? How are we going to know it's getting better? What would be indicators to us that say this is starting to mend or heal or turn, whichever way you want to think about it? Right? And clearly, iterate, right? There's always going to be something else on the list. But and this has to be done informally but out loud. Right? You can't go to the pub and secretly work on this. You got to say, hey, there's some things in our organization that are not aligned, are not helpful, and we are trying to cure this. And here's the things that are, and here's what we propose to cure, and we're going to see if we can get this in a better state. So, I'm happy to be with you. I can say that, right? I'm here all day today and all day tomorrow. If you want to come up with some unwritten rules or whatever, or you've read the articles, please. Nothing's more lonely than a speaker standing all by himself, wondering hello. So please feel free to have a chat. Do we have any comments, questions? Am I completely confusing you? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, team. It was fascinating. Thank you very much. Everybody was so fascinated that everybody just forgot about the bot. The bot, remember? Telegram bot? DevOps 2019_bot. You ask questions from there.
Unwritten rule. In a large auditorium, don't ask a question.
Yeah.
Right? It's true. I'm sure you want to talk with me or chat with me. That's why I'm going to be around all the time. And we don't have to have all these other people listening in. So grab me at any time.
Okay. So since there weren't any questions what is the name of the new book? There's a new question.
We don't even know yet. We've been trying. We're kind of, culture in the workplace. We're trying, because we don't want to say organization, because we've hit this conclusion, like, if the organization is so big, there are people in the organization that are in accounting at headquarters. Do I have share a culture with that person? I'm an engineer out at this office in another country. I don't know them. If I don't know their name, how are they impacting me? If there's no impact there, they're not part of the culture. I mean, for instance, I'll give you an example. I did some work at HP. HP back in the day was huge, huge. And depending on what group you were in, they were completely different. Like HP printers was for a while going crazy. They were minting money. They were the happiest people around town. And other parts of HP were dying. But you go to the HP printer guys, and they were just on fire. We're great. We got great products. And it was a completely different vibe in the same quote-unquote company.
Nice. Let's see if we have more questions. No, but I have a question from my side.
Yeah.
So the book was published in 1987, the first edition.
Right.
So if you had to write the book today, how would it change?
As a book?
Yeah. The society has changed a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think, we put it this way. Most of the process of getting to the point where it gets published has to stay the same, because you're basically working your way through the ideas. Right? And I must admit, for instance, Tom DeMarco and I have written Peopleware. We wrote 3 editions of that. We wrote Waltzing with Bears, Managing Risk on Software Projects. We tried to write 2 more books, and they died, because we just couldn't find a marriage of our ideas, and we gave up. So I think it would be only at the implementation end, or the execution end, would I say, is this going to be a blog? What is this going to be? And right now, literally, we don't know if this is a book, or if this is a set of essays, or how we're going to manifest it to the outside world. But we're pretending it's a book. We're writing and rewriting and reading it and rereading it. We're hooking up 6 of us together on GoToMeeting every 3 or 4 days, talking about this for about an hour. But the last thing we're worried about is the implementation at this point. But I think you're absolutely right. There's all sorts of ways we can deliver this.
All right. We have a great question from Victor in the chat. So he's saying they really try to change the culture in the company and the previous workplace, but is it real to change the culture from the bottom without the real support from the top? They really tried.
Yeah. I think I want to be an optimist. I want to say, yeah, you got a shot. But put it this way, though. If the very first line of management isn't in on this, I'm not betting with you. That's a revolt from the technical staff is a hard pull. But on the other hand, you get a couple of levels up, they don't know what your daily life is like. They really don't. I'm sorry. I gave a talk and I had a breakfast with a whole bunch of high-level managers and the CEO of United Technologies Corporation in the United States. And they're all sitting at breakfast trying not to have eggs on their shirt and stuff. And the CEO is sitting right next to me, and so I just said to him, "What do you do all day?" I said, "I've never sat next to a CEO of a huge company. What do you do all day?" And he smiled, he said, "I'm really glad you asked that. I buy and sell companies. We are a company of many companies, and I'm looking for good fits, and if one of our companies is not a good fit, we sell it off." And he said, "That's what I do. I buy and sell companies." And so, our culture in Otis Elevator, which is one of N companies in there, is our culture. This guy has no, other than selling you, that's all he can do. Right? So I think everybody wants to make management the bogeyman here. Right? And put it this way, have you ever been on a project where the culture is completely different than all the rest of the organization? It's really, sometimes a really great project, it'll make its own rules. Right? So, it's got a real life to it, and you build real trust. You have real colleagues. It's a wonderful feeling. But the problem is, it's temporal. When it dissolves over time, the culture goes back into the original shape. Jerry Weinberg, who is this amazing consultant, they wrote a bunch of books. He talks about the giant marshmallow of culture. And you push it into a shape, and the minute you let go, it goes back into the same old marshmallow shape.
Great. We are actually out of time.
Oh.
But there is a Q&A session right after this talk with you and the attendees. We go out to out of the room, right to the left. Okay. There will be a Q&A session with you.
Okay.
So we proceed there. And thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
And tomorrow, there is a meet and greet session with Tim. We don't know what time yet, but follow the chat, and we will post the information there.